The twin suns of Calith hung low over the desert-like surface, painting the jagged rocks and sand dunes in shades of gold and crimson. A soft wind blew across the barren planet, carrying fine dust that sparkled like tiny stars in the dying light. To most visitors, Calith seemed lifeless, a forgotten rock on the edge of the galaxy, but to those who knew how to look, it hid secrets older than most civilizations. Captain Lyra Marr stood at the edge of a vast plateau, staring down at the ruins below. She had traveled countless light years, following ancient maps and faded transmissions all pointing to this place. Her heart beat faster as she considered what might lie beneath. History spoke of humanity as extinct, their warships nothing more than myths whispered in the dark corners of alien spaceports. Yet something deep inside Lyra felt different. Humans might be forgotten, but they were never truly gone. The team of archaeologists around her worked quietly, scanning the remains of stone buildings carved into the cliffside. Their tools emitted soft hums and holographic displays flickered with data. Lyra's eyes, however, were fixed on a faint glow beneath a massive archway. The light pulsed rhythmically like a heartbeat. "Captain, you need to see this," said Joran, the ship's engineer, pointing to a seam in the ground that seemed too precise to be natural. It wasn't just a crack, it was a hatch hidden beneath centuries of rock and sand. Lyra nodded. "Careful. We don't know what we're about to awaken." Together they lowered themselves into the hidden chamber, their boots clanking against smooth metal beneath the dust. The air smelled faintly metallic, tinged with the scent of ancient electronics. Before them stretched a vault of incredible size, larger than any structure they had ever seen. Shadows danced across walls adorned with strange symbols, symbols that reminded Lyra of the old human scripts she had read in her childhood. At the center of the chamber floated several massive objects, each shaped like a ship, but unlike any vessel built in modern times. Their surfaces were sleek and black, glowing with faint veins of blue light. Lyra's breath caught. These were the ancient human warships, the ones that had supposedly disappeared tens of thousands of years ago. "They're real," whispered Joran, awe coloring his voice. Lyra approached one of the ships, her fingers brushing lightly over its hull. The moment she touched it, a pulse of energy ran through her arm. Not painful, but electrifying. The ship responded. Lights flickered brighter. Panels slid open, and the air seemed to hum with power. "They're waking up," Lyra said, her eyes wide. "They know we're here." The rest of the team stepped back, unsure whether to be frightened or amazed. Lyra, however, felt a strange calm. It was as if the ships recognized her. In her veins ran the same blood, the same lineage that had once commanded these giants. Humanity was gone in numbers, but not in spirit. A soft, melodic voice echoed through the chamber, not from speakers, but from the ship itself. "We have waited. We are ready." Lyra's heart raced. She glanced at her crew. "It's talking. The warships. They're alive." Joran swallowed hard. "Alive or programmed to think they are?" Lyra shook her head. "No, this is more than programming. I can feel it. There's intelligence here, and it's human." For hours they explored the chamber, mapping the ships and their systems. Each vessel contained strange consoles, unlike anything in the modern galaxy. The technology seemed almost magical. Energy flowing without visible fuel. Propulsion systems that could bend gravity. Weapons that glowed with condensed light. Lyra could feel the history in every curve and line, every symbol etched into the hull. Finally, she turned to her crew. "We need to get these ships out of here. The galaxy cannot see this yet, not until we understand it." But as they worked to activate the control panels, the ships began to hum louder. The light veins running across their surfaces expanded, forming a lattice of blue energy that seemed to pulse in sync with Lyra's heartbeat. The floor vibrated underfoot. It was subtle at first, but gradually the vibration grew, and the ground trembled slightly. Outside, the desert wind picked up, as if reacting to the awakening below. Tiny rocks lifted into the air, floating in strange arcs, guided by forces no one yet understood. Then, with a deep resonant sound, the first ship lifted off the ground, its engines silent yet powerful, shimmering with a force that bent the light around it. Lyra and her team gasped. The vessel hovered effortlessly, rotating slowly as if inspecting the chamber it had called home for thousands of years. The symbols on its hull glowed brighter, almost like stars being born. "They're beautiful," murmured Joran. "And terrifying," Lyra nodded. Her mind raced with questions. How many ships were there? How many more lay hidden across the galaxy? And why had they waited? Had humanity commanded them to sleep until this moment? The voice spoke again, calmer now, but carrying authority that filled the chamber. The galaxy grows restless. The time of watching has ended. Lyra's pulse quickened. Restless. What do you mean? She asked aloud, though she knew the voice was not human. Are we in danger? The ship tilted slightly, almost in acknowledgement. The balance has shifted. Those who dominate the stars without wisdom threaten all life. We will rise. The team exchanged nervous glances. Lyra realized then that the stories humans had left behind were not exaggerations. These warships were not weapons meant for conquest. They were guardians, designed to protect life and enforce balance. Humanity's strength had never been in numbers or fleets, but in foresight and cunning. Lyra turned to Joran. We need to prepare. If these ships are rising, the galaxy will notice, and not everyone will be happy about it. As night fell over Calith, the twin moons rose, casting pale light over the desert. The ships, now fully awake, hovered silently above the surface. Their energy pulsed like a heartbeat, visible even from miles away. Somewhere deep inside her, Lyra felt a mix of fear and awe. She understood that she had just stepped into a story older than any civilization alive today. A story where humans were no longer myths, and the stars themselves might tremble at their return. Suddenly, sensors aboard their small craft picked up multiple signatures approaching Calith. Aliens. Scanners showed ships from a neighboring system, sleek and armed, moving faster than any known craft. They were curious, perhaps even hostile. Lyra's hands tightened on the railing. They found us, she whispered. The warships responded before she could react. Beams of soft blue light extended from their hulls, scanning the incoming vessels, reading their energy patterns, their intent. It was as if the ships themselves were judging. Joran's voice trembled. Captain. What do we do? Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the pulse of the nearest warship beneath her feet. It was strong, intelligent, and patient. We wait, she said, and we let the humans who came before guide us. The ships hummed in agreement, their lights brightening as though acknowledging her words. The night sky over Calith was alive now with a quiet power. The desert sands shimmered, floating gently in the energy currents. Somewhere, deep in the vaults of these ancient warships, human intelligence stirred, awakening after millennia. Lyra knew the galaxy would never be the same, and for the first time in thousands of years, humanity was no longer just a story. The sky above Calith burned with an ethereal glow as the first human warship hovered silently over the desert ruins. Its sleek black hull reflected the twin moons, and faint veins of blue energy pulsed rhythmically across its surface. Lyra Marr stood on a rocky ledge, her eyes wide as the ship shifted in the air with perfect precision. She could feel the power radiating from it, not just energy but intelligence. Captain, Joran said, his voice tight with awe. They're thinking, I can feel it in the sensors. These ships, they're alive. Lyra nodded, keeping her gaze fixed on the ship. Not just alive, Joran, they're human. In a way, they're the ones who created the legends. As the crew watched, other massive shapes began to rise from the vaults below. One by one, ancient warships broke through the sand and stone, lifting effortlessly into the sky. Each ship moved with grace, almost as if it were stretching after a long sleep. They circled Calith in a synchronized dance, their lights creating a shimmering halo over the desert. They respond to us, Lyra whispered. We're connected to them somehow. They recognize us, humans. The hum of energy in the air deepened, vibrating through the ground and the bones of those standing on it. Lyra could feel her heartbeat synchronize with the ships, as though the pulse of human history itself flowed through her veins. The warships were not weapons of destruction. They were guardians, waiting for the moment when the galaxy would need them. But that moment was arriving sooner than anyone expected. From the outer system, multiple alien fleets had picked up the strange energy signatures emanating from Calith. These civilizations, powerful and technologically advanced, had long believed humanity extinct. Now rumors of ghost fleets were verified by reality. Scouts reported vessels unlike any seen before, ships that bent light, moved without engines, and emitted immense energy. Captain, Joran said, pointing at the sensors, we have incoming ships. Multiple signatures. They're fast and armed. Lyra's face hardened. Then we prepare. These warships may be guardians, but the galaxy will not see them that way. Not yet. The first alien vessels appeared on the horizon. sleek and silver, glinting in the light of Calith's moons. Their commanders had expected an abandoned planet. Instead, they saw giants of black steel hovering above the desert. The aliens halted, scanning, unsure whether to attack or retreat. The warships reacted immediately. Beams of soft blue light extended from their hulls, scanning the approaching fleets. It was not aggression, but assessment. The ships seemed to read the intentions of the aliens, analyzing not just power, but morality and strategy. Lyra could feel it in her mind, a silent communication, subtle but clear. The ships were asking, "Are you friend or threat? Friends or enemies?" she muttered. "We'll see soon enough." The aliens misinterpreted the pause as hesitation. A small attack squadron broke formation and surged forward, firing bright energy bolts at the nearest warship. But the ancient vessel moved with impossible speed, phasing through the attacks as if they were ghosts. The energy bolts harmlessly dissipated against invisible shields. Then the warship fired a single pulse of its own. The squadron was knocked back by a wave of controlled energy. Unharmed but incapacitated, its engines disrupted. The alien commanders stared in shock. These were no ordinary weapons. The human warships manipulated gravity and energy itself. It was a demonstration, a warning and a test, all at once. Lyra watched as the other warships joined in, forming a defensive formation around Calith. The humans of the past had built these ships to survive every threat, and it was clear now that they had designed them with intelligence and judgment beyond what even the galaxy's most advanced civilizations could comprehend. "They're judging us," Lyra said aloud, more to herself than anyone else. "They're deciding what is right, what must be stopped." Meanwhile, sensors aboard the alien ships began to fail. Communication signals scrambled, engines fluctuated, and weapon systems flickered. The warships did not destroy the attackers. They simply controlled the battlefield, demonstrating power without unnecessary violence. The aliens understood in a moment that they faced beings far beyond their comprehension. "This is beyond anything we imagine," Joran said. "It's not just strength. It's strategy. It's intelligence." Lyra nodded. "That's human ingenuity. That's what the galaxy forgot, and it's waking up now." Hours passed as the warships hovered, scanning the skies and the approaching fleets. Some alien commanders chose to retreat, their curiosity overwhelmed by fear. Others lingered, sending envoys to attempt communication. Lyra and her crew were careful to maintain distance, observing how the warships responded to each action. The ships moved with elegance and precision. Their AI, or rather their consciousness, seemed to sense every possibility in the battle. In one motion, they could deflect attacks, protect Calith, and study the alien technology at the same time. It was a display of control and power that left Lyra breathless. By evening, the alien fleets had mostly retreated. The warships returned to their hovering positions over Calith, their blue lights dimming slightly. Lyra stepped forward, placing a hand on the nearest hull. The hum of energy was gentle now, almost comforting. "They're alive," she whispered again, "and they are human." Joran touched his console. "Captain, I've been analyzing the energy patterns. These ships, they're not just weapons. They're designed to think, to decide, even to feel in a way. And they've been waiting, sleeping, until the galaxy needed them again." Lyra's mind raced. "Then we need to understand them, learn from them. Humanity's past, our ancestors. They built something greater than empires, something that could survive when humans could not." As the night deepened, Lyra and her crew moved back into the chamber below the plateau. The ships had returned to their semi-resting state, their lights soft and rhythmic like a heartbeat slowing after exertion. The air vibrated faintly, carrying the weight of ancient knowledge. Lyra felt a connection stronger than anything she had ever experienced. It was as if the warships were speaking to her, not with words, but with understanding. They trusted her not as a commander, but as a descendant of their creators. Hours turned to days as the crew worked to unlock more secrets. The ships held archives of human history, maps of the galaxy, and tactical simulations of battles fought long before any alien race could imagine space travel. Lyra realized that humans had not just vanished, they had prepared. The warships were the embodiment of human survival, intelligence, and creativity. One night, Lyra gazed at the stars from the top of the plateau. The warships hovered silently below, their energy veins glowing faintly against the dark desert sands. Somewhere in the galaxy, Other civilizations were already talking about the strange new fleet on Calith. The stories would grow, spreading fear and awe. They won't all understand, Joran said softly beside her. Some will see humans as saviors, others as threats. Lyra nodded, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. It doesn't matter what they think. What matters is that we're here, and these ships, our ancestors, they are ready to protect what humans once loved, to show the galaxy what humans truly are. The warship's hum filled the night air, a constant reminder that the past was alive, and that the galaxy was about to witness something extraordinary. For the first time in millennia, humans were no longer myths, and their legacy was stirring. Somewhere deep in the vaults, the largest ship, the flagship, glowed brighter than the rest. Lyra felt it resonate with her presence, as though recognizing her as its captain, even though she had only just discovered it. It pulsed with life strength and the memory of countless battles fought by humans who had long since vanished. "This is just the beginning," Lyra whispered. "The galaxy has no idea what is waking, and we will guide them." The desert winds of Calith whispered around them, carrying the soft hum of human warships awakening. Across the stars, civilizations would soon tremble, not out of hatred but awe. Humanity's time was returning, and this time it would not be forgotten. The distant stars twinkled in the vast darkness of space, but over the Calith system, darkness was breaking. The alien fleets that had once observed the planet from afar now approached with caution. They had seen the legends, but nothing could have prepared them for the sight of the human warships in motion. From orbit, the fleet commander saw black vessels larger than any capital ship they had encountered. The hulls shimmered with faint veins of blue light, as if the ships themselves were alive. The alien commanders sent signals of inquiry, hoping to communicate, but the warships ignored them. Instead, they moved in a deliberate, graceful formation, circling the planet and assessing all activity. Lyra Marr stood at the helm of the largest ship, the flagship. Its hull enormous, its presence overwhelming. She could feel every pulse of energy from the surrounding vessels, every flicker of light on the others' hulls. These were not mere machines. They were alive, thinking, and judging. They had been created to protect life, to respond when the balance of the galaxy was threatened. "This is it," Lyra said, her voice calm but firm. "They're testing us, and the others. We must be ready for whatever comes." Below her, the crew worked tirelessly, monitoring the sensors and preparing defensive systems. Yet no one felt fear. There was awe, yes, but also certainty. The warships, though massive and ancient, responded to human presence. They recognized her, and through her they connected to the long-forgotten ingenuity of humanity. The first alien vessels moved forward, probing. They fired small bursts of energy at the nearest human warship. The attack was cautious, meant to test, but even a small strike triggered a demonstration of power unlike anything seen before. The human vessel shifted instantaneously, phasing through the attack as though the lasers passed through mist. Then it emitted a low pulse that disabled the alien ship's engines without harming the crew. The vessel floated helplessly, engines offline as the warship circled with calm precision. One of the alien commanders shouted in disbelief, "Impossible! They're ships. They are not just machines." Lyra watched, her eyes narrowed. "They're not meant to destroy recklessly. They're meant to judge, to protect, and they will act only when needed." Another attack came, bolder this time. Multiple alien ships moved as one, firing volleys of energy beams. The human warships reacted like a single organism. One ship created a shield of concentrated energy that bent and absorbed the beams, while another emitted a gravitational pulse, redirecting the alien projectiles harmlessly into space. The coordination was perfect, beyond prediction. Joran, monitoring from the control console, whispered, "It's like they're alive, and smarter than any strategist we know." Lyra nodded, feeling the pulse of the flagship beneath her feet. They are alive, and they remember what humans once achieved. The galaxy has forgotten, but these ships, they have not. The alien fleet faltered, confused and hesitant. Their commanders realized that brute force would not prevail. Yet their pride and curiosity drove them to push further, hoping to discover the limits of these human creations. Suddenly, one of the warships rose high above the rest, emitting a stream of blue light that split and bent around enemy vessels. In a single, precise action, several alien ships were immobilized, not destroyed, but rendered incapable of fighting. The human warships were demonstrating dominance without unnecessary destruction. Lyra felt a strange warmth in her chest. She understood now the truth of her ancestors' legacy. These warships had been built not to conquer, but to protect life and enforce balance. Humanity had survived not by overwhelming strength, but by intelligence, foresight, and ethics. "This is incredible," Joran murmured. "They're teaching a lesson." "Without killing anyone?" "Yes," Lyra said. "And the lesson is, humans were never weak. They were waiting for the right moment to rise again." The aliens regrouped, sending a massive armada, now fully committed to testing the human fleet. They fired volleys from every ship, beams of concentrated energy that would have torn through any conventional vessel. But the human warships moved as one, flowing between attacks, phasing, deflecting, and countering with bursts of energy that disabled alien engines, communication systems, and weapons without loss of life. Lyra realized something astonishing. The warships could read the enemy's intentions. Every attack, every maneuver was anticipated and countered almost before it happened. It was not just strategy, it was intuition. The ships learned in real time, adapting to the unknown in ways no other race had managed. The flagship emitted a low, resonant hum that seemed to ripple through the alien armada. One by one, ships slowed, engines failing, their crews bewildered by the display. Entire formations were incapacitated without a single life lost. The aliens had seen war before, but nothing like this. The human warships were not just weapons, they were living guardians. Lyra took a deep breath, feeling the immense responsibility on her shoulders. "They are human," she whispered. "In their way, they are us, the best of what we were meant to be, and now, they are waking the galaxy to remember." The battle paused as the warships hovered in perfect formation above Calith. Their lights pulsed slowly like a heartbeat, signaling control, patience, and power. Alien commanders sent diplomats, hoping to negotiate, to understand the human vessel's purpose. Some fleets retreated, realizing that aggression would only lead to humiliation. Others lingered, afraid to leave, yet unable to attack. Joran glanced at Lyra, eyes wide. "Captain, they're choosing mercy. They could destroy them all, but they don't. Why?" Lyra smiled faintly. "Because that's humanity. Strength without mercy is tyranny. Our ancestors built them not to conquer, but to protect. That is the lesson they carry." The aliens cautiously approached, sending signals of peace. The human warships responded with soft, pulsing lights acknowledging the gesture. Communication began slowly, the ships interpreting the aliens' intent, their words, and even their emotions. The human vessels were teaching, not just displaying power, but offering guidance, showing the galaxy a new way to understand force, responsibility, and morality. Over the next hours, Lyra and her crew worked closely with the warships. They learned how the ships could communicate across vast distances, how they could manipulate gravity and energy, and even how they could predict outcomes of battles before they happened. Every revelation left them in awe. "It's like they're alive." "But more than alive," Joran said. "They're human. They understand ethics, strategy, even compassion." "Yes," Lyra agreed. "And that is what the galaxy has forgotten. Humanity was never weak. We created guardians capable of surviving anything, and now they are reminding the stars." By the time Calith's twin suns began to rise, the alien fleets had mostly retreated. They carried with them stories, awe, and fear. The legend of the human warships had grown beyond imagination. Across the galaxy, whispers spread of ships that could phase through attacks, anticipate strategy, and show mercy. The stars themselves seemed to hum with the awakening of a forgotten civilization. Lyra looked at the warships hovering below, their lights dimming softly. She felt pride, fear, and hope all at once. "This is only the beginning," she said. "They have awoken. And now the galaxy will remember humans, not as myths, not as extinct legends, but as protectors, as strategists, as those capable of greatness." A low hum echoed through the flagship, a message that only Lyra could sense. The largest warship, the one that seemed to lead the rest, had activated fully. It pulsed with life, ready to rise to any challenge. Lyra felt it resonate with her own presence, as if acknowledging her as its captain. "This is our time," she whispered. "The galaxy will tremble, and humanity will guide it." Above the planet, the warships hovered silently like guardians watching over an unaware galaxy. Below, Lyra and her crew prepared to learn, explore, and awaken the potential that humans had left behind. Across the stars, civilizations would watch and some would tremble. The legend of human ingenuity had returned, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same. The first contact of fire had shown the galaxy that humanity was not gone. It had only been waiting, sleeping in the shadows, ready to rise when the stars needed them most. And now, the human warships had truly awakened. The galaxy was changing, and the ripples of Calith's awakening spread faster than light. Reports of the ancient human warships reached every corner of inhabited space. Civilizations that had once ignored humanity now spoke in hushed tones of awe, fear, and curiosity. Across the stars, fleets shifted positions, councils debated, and whispers of the sleeping giants reached even the most distant planets. Lyra Mar and her crew watched from the flagship, hovering above Calith. The ships were no longer merely tools. They were alive in purpose and mind. Each pulsing light, each calculated movement, displayed intelligence that surpassed even the most advanced alien technology. "We can't stay hidden for long," Joran said, adjusting his console. "The galaxy is already talking. Soon someone will come with intentions we can't ignore." Lyra's eyes narrowed as she looked toward the distant stars. "Then we prepare. The warships are not just weapons. They are guardians. But guardians need guidance, and that guidance comes from us, humanity's remnants." Weeks passed as Lyra and her crew worked tirelessly to unlock the deeper functions of the warships. The ships were more than machines. They were repositories of knowledge containing human history, tactics, and philosophy. They could communicate across vast distances, sense the intentions of other beings, and even anticipate conflicts before they fully formed. It was a power unlike any other in the galaxy, and it drew attention immediately. The first group of visitors arrived cautiously. Representatives from a coalition of planets that had once been rivals approached Calith, unsure whether to fight or negotiate. Their ships were sleek and heavily armed, but Lyra could sense hesitation among their commanders. The human warships hovered silently, observing, waiting. Lyra stepped forward on the bridge of the flagship, feeling the hum of energy beneath her feet. "We are not here to conquer," she said into the universal communication channel. "We are here to remind the galaxy of something long forgotten. We are guardians built to protect life and balance. You may fear us, but we do not seek war unless it is forced upon us." The alien envoys paused, sensing the truth in her words. The largest warship, the flagship, pulsed with soft blue light, resonating with the intentions of those who approached. The aliens realized slowly that this was not mere display. It was judgment. Their minds were weighed, their motives sensed, and their actions measured against the legacy of humanity itself. Not all welcomed the humans' return. In the shadowed edges of the galaxy, a secretive empire had observed humanity's rise in silence. They had studied the remnants of human civilization, noting the sudden awakening of warships across Calith. Unlike others, they did not approach with curiosity. They approached with fear and ambition. Their fleets were vast, their fleets designed to conquer or destroy any threat to their dominion. And now, this secretive empire believed that humanity's return could not be allowed. Lyra received warning signals as scouts detected a shadow fleet moving through uncharted space toward Calith. "They are coming," she said quietly. "And they will not come to talk." The human warships stirred again. Their massive hulls glowed brighter as if sensing danger on the horizon. Lyra felt the energy pulse through her chest, a rhythm that matched her own heartbeat. "We cannot fight blindly," she said. "We must learn to move with them, think with them, and guide them. Only then can we face what approaches." Over the next days, the crew trained with the warships. Each member learned to synchronize their thoughts with the ships, feeling the subtle flows of energy, the anticipations of movement, and the calculations of strategy. It was difficult at first, but slowly, they understood the rhythm of the ancient vessels. Humans, even in small numbers, could coordinate with these guardians, bridging the gap between flesh and machine, past and present. Meanwhile, alien civilizations across the galaxy began sending delegations, offering alliances or requesting guidance. Some came cautiously, fearing the humans' power. Others came with hope, seeking protection from the shadows that had long threatened them. Lyra and her crew navigated these first diplomatic contacts carefully, knowing that the wrong move could spark a war far larger than any before. But even as alliances formed, the Shadow Empire advanced. Their fleet, vast and dark, moved with calculated precision through uncharted space. Sensors detected warships unlike any Lyra had ever seen. Fast, heavily armed, and designed to overwhelm anything in their path. They would not stop until the human warships were neutralized. Lyra studied the approaching threat. "We are outnumbered," she said, her voice steady. "But we are not powerless. The warships have waited for this moment for thousands of years, and we are human. We adapt, we survive, and we will face them together." The warships responded with a soft pulse of blue energy, as if affirming her words. Lyra felt their presence around her, every ship alive, aware, and ready. In secret, she began sending messages to friendly alien factions, asking for assistance not for battle, but for observation and support. Some fleets joined willingly, intrigued by the humans' power and guided by their ethics. Others hesitated, afraid to commit, but stayed close enough to witness the human warship's capabilities firsthand. Training intensified. Crew members learned to anticipate attacks, synchronize movement with the warships, and understand the ancient technology. The flagship became a hub of strategy and intelligence. Lyra worked tirelessly, feeling the weight of leadership, yet strengthened by the presence of the ships and their connection to humanity's past. One evening, while the twin moons of Calith rose in the sky, the first scouts of the Shadow Empire appeared. They approached swiftly, dark silhouettes against the stars. Lyra watched them silently, feeling the pulse of the flagship and the surrounding warships. The moment of confrontation had arrived. The shadow ships tested the humans with small attacks, probing defenses, firing energy bursts. Each time the warships responded, not with reckless aggression but with precision and control. The Shadow Fleet's energy systems faltered, engines disrupted, and attacks neutralized. Lyra observed, learning, adjusting strategies with the guidance of the warships. But unlike the previous encounters, the Shadow Fleet was relentless. They returned with larger formations, coordinated assaults, and new weapons designed to bypass conventional shields. Lyra realized that this enemy was not here to negotiate, they were here to destroy. The warships reacted instantly. Shields of concentrated energy formed, and the largest vessels created gravitational distortions to slow enemy movement. The battle was on the horizon, but Lyra knew that sheer force alone would not win. Strategy, coordination, and the unique intelligence of the human warships were key. "Prepare for full engagement," she said calmly. "And remember, we do not fight to conquer. We fight to protect. We fight to show the galaxy what humanity truly is." The warships moved as one, weaving through space with a rhythm that seemed almost alive. The Shadow Fleet advanced, expecting easy victory, but found themselves outmaneuvered at every turn. Lyra guided the flagship, coordinating movements with the crew and the warships themselves. Each attack from the Shadow Empire was countered with precision, yet no unnecessary destruction occurred. From the bridge of the flagship, Lyra looked out at the stars, feeling the weight of history and the hope of the future. The warships, though ancient, were more than vessels. They were teachers, warriors, and guardians. And humanity, through them, had returned to the galaxy stronger than ever. "We are ready," she whispered, watching the approaching fleet. "The galaxy has seen our strength, but it is our wisdom, our strategy, and our humanity that will guide this battle." Above Calith, the warships glowed softly, pulsing in unison like a heartbeat that spanned the stars. The Shadow Empire's fleet drew closer, unaware that they faced not just technology, but the intelligence, ethics, and creativity of a species long thought extinct. And as the stars stretched infinitely around them, Lyra knew that the true test was only beginning. Allies would be made, enemies revealed, and the galaxy itself would tremble at the rising of human ingenuity. The awakening of the ancient human warships had set the stage for a confrontation unlike any before. And in that moment, Lyra Mar understood that humanity's legacy was no longer a story. It was a force that could shape the future of the stars. The darkness of deep space stretched endlessly around the Calith system. Countless stars glimmered faintly, oblivious to the coming storm. On the horizon, the Shadow Empire's fleet appeared, a moving wall of dark metal and light, vast in number and unyielding in purpose. Their warships pulsed with energy, engines glowing fiercely, and their intent was clear: obliterate the human warships before they could rise fully. Lyra Mar stood on the bridge of the flagship, calm but resolute. Around her, the hum of the ancient human warships vibrated through the deck, as if the vessels themselves understood the significance of the moment. Every ship pulsed with blue light, alive with intelligence and memory, ready to respond with precision and force. "Captain," Joren said, his voice tight. "They're coming fast. Too many to count. They will attack in full formation." Lyra's eyes scanned the stars, watching the enemy approach. "Let them come," she said. "The warships are awake now. They have waited for this day, and we will show the galaxy what humans truly are." The Shadow Empire struck first, unleashing volleys of energy that streaked across space like lightning. But the human warships were ready. Shields flared to life, bending and absorbing the beams, rendering the attacks ineffective. One ship emitted a gravitational pulse, throwing several enemy vessels off course, while another phased partially out of normal space, reappearing behind the attackers to cut off retreat. Lyra coordinated with the flagship, guiding maneuvers in harmony with the warships. Each ship seemed to anticipate her thoughts, moving as if the fleet and crew were one mind. "Remember," she said to her team, "we are not here to destroy indiscriminately. We fight to protect. Precision, coordination, intelligence." The enemy fleet, massive though it was, found itself outmatched in ways it could not predict. Weapons were disabled before they fired, engines were disrupted, and yet the human warships avoided unnecessary casualties. The Shadow Empire had expected violence and domination, but found strategy and intelligence instead. As the battle intensified, the flagship pulsed brighter, a beacon of human ingenuity. Lyra could feel the warships resonating with her presence, responding not just to commands but to the intent and rhythm of humanity itself. They were alive, aware and unstoppable when united. Joren's hands flew over the controls, awestruck. "It's incredible. They're thinking for themselves, reading the battle, anticipating every move. No fleet in history has ever done this." Lyra nodded, watching as a cluster of enemy vessels advanced, only to be met by a coordinated wave of energy from the warships. Shields expanded. Gravitational fields distorted enemy flight paths, and beams of concentrated energy disabled the enemy weapons. The Shadow Empire realized, too late, that brute force would never win. Humanity's intelligence, creativity, and ethics were the ultimate advantage. In the center of the battle, the flagship surged forward, its hull gleaming with radiant blue energy. It moved as if it were alive, weaving between enemy formations, disabling ships without destruction. The warships worked in harmony, each responding to every action, anticipating the moves of every enemy commander. Lyra felt her heart pound, not with fear, but with exhilaration. This was the culmination of centuries of human legacy, the awakening of ingenuity long thought lost. Every ship, every pulse of energy, carried the wisdom of a species that had once ruled the stars with intellect, creativity, and morality. The Shadow Empire's fleet faltered. They could not predict the warships' movements, could not counter their strategy, and were overwhelmed without a single ship being destroyed unnecessarily. The humans had turned the battle into a display of power, restraint, and judgment. From her station, Lyra initiated a communication channel, sending a message not of threat, but of understanding. "We do not seek your destruction. We are guardians here to protect balance. Lay down your weapons and we will show mercy. Stand against us and you will face the judgment of human ingenuity." There was silence across the enemy network, as if the message alone had shaken their resolve. For the first time, the Shadow Commanders hesitated, uncertain whether to continue or retreat. The warships pulsed once more, a soft glow rippling across the fleet, reinforcing their authority. Then the battle shifted. One of the largest shadow vessels attempted a reckless charge, hoping to breach the human formation. In response, the warships coordinated flawlessly. Gravitational fields pulled the enemy ship off course. Energy pulses disrupted its systems, and beams of light immobilized its engines, all without destroying the crew. It floated helplessly, a silent warning to others. Lyra smiled faintly. "Strength without mercy is not humanity. This is what we were meant to be." The enemy fleet began to retreat, disorganized and fearful. Reports came in from distant fleets that had observed the battle. The galaxy itself had witnessed something extraordinary. The legend of human warships was no longer myth. Across star systems, civilizations felt awe, respect, and an undeniable shift in power. Humans were back. They were guardians, strategists, and protectors, and their legacy had returned stronger than ever. As the dust of the retreating shadow fleet cleared, Lyra surveyed the battlefield. Not a single human warship was lost, not a single life unnecessarily destroyed, yet the power displayed was undeniable. The galaxy had learned at last what humanity was capable of. The warships, sensing the end of the battle, hovered over Kaleth, their lights softening to a calm, rhythmic pulse. Lyra felt the energy beneath her feet and knew that the ships were alive in thought, purpose, and memory. They had proven their strength, but also their restraint. Humanity's return was not conquest, it was balance. Messages arrived from allied civilizations offering support and friendship. Some came in awe, others with cautious respect. Lyra understood that this was the beginning of a new era, where humans, once thought extinct, would now guide and protect the galaxy with wisdom and strength. She stepped to the observation deck, gazing at the stars stretching endlessly around them. The twin moons of Kaleth reflected softly on the hulls of the hovering warships. "This is only the beginning," she whispered. "The galaxy has seen our strength, but it is our wisdom, our creativity, and our humanity that will truly shape the future." From the bridge, Joran looked at her with wide eyes. "Do you think they'll ever forget us again?" Lyra shook her head, a small smile playing on her lips. "No, we are no longer a story. We are living history, and the stars themselves will remember that humans were not weak, not extinct, and never to be underestimated." Somewhere deep within the largest warship, the flagship, systems hummed in synchronization, lights pulsing like a heartbeat. The vessel seemed almost sentient, aware that the battle had changed everything. Lyra placed her hand lightly on the console, feeling the resonance. "They are alive," she said softly, "and they will protect what we love, when the galaxy needs them most." As the first light of Kaleth's twin suns broke over the horizon, illuminating the desert below, the warships shimmered in quiet triumph. Across the galaxy, civilizations would speak of this day, the day humanity returned not to conquer, but to awaken the balance of the stars. Lyra Mar stood at the helm, surrounded by the living legacy of her ancestors. She felt pride, responsibility, and hope. Humanity had endured not through numbers, not through empire, but through ingenuity, ethics, and foresight. The human warships were proof of what her species could achieve, and what they could still achieve in the future. The stars, which had once trembled in fear of the unknown, now glimmered with respect. Across the galaxy, the story of human awakening would spread, inspiring awe and hope. The warships, ancient yet alive, pulsed softly in space, ready to rise again whenever the galaxy faced a threat. And as Lyra gazed into the endless expanse, she knew this was more than victory. It was the beginning of a new era, where humans would no longer be myths or legends, but the guardians of the stars themselves. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of a forgotten power, and humanity's place among the stars was restored. The warships had stirred, and the stars themselves had trembled, but now they shone with a new light, guided by the courage, wisdom, and ingenuity of humans. Lyra whispered once more, feeling the pulse of the flagship beneath her. "The stars are ours to protect, and we will never let them fall." Above Kaleth, the warships hovered, alive, vigilant, and eternal, proof that humanity, though thought lost, had returned stronger than ever. And across the galaxy, every civilization would remember the day humans returned and the stars themselves trembled.